The Paradox of Progress: How Black Women Are Revolutionizing Entrepreneurship Through Necessity. Good morning, everyone. I stand before you today, humbled and electrified by the opportunity to share insights from my recent deep dive with Joy Truelove, a visionary researcher and advocate whose work has fundamentally transformed how we understand entrepreneurship in America. Joy isn't just documenting trends, she's illuminating the hidden truths behind the statistics, challenging conventional wisdom, and creating pathways for thousands of underrepresented founders to thrive against staggering odds. Her groundbreaking research has become a beacon for policymakers, investors, and entrepreneurs alike, forcing us to confront uncomfortable realities while simultaneously inspiring us to imagine new possibilities. We've all heard the entrepreneurial origin stories that dominate our cultural imagination, haven't we? The passionate visionary who quits their stable job to pursue a dream, the innovative thinker who spots a gap in the market, the ambitious leader who wants to build wealth on their own terms. These narratives aren't wrong, they're just dangerously incomplete. What if I told you that one of the most significant entrepreneurial revolutions in American history is unfolding right now? But it's not happening because systems are working, it's happening because systems are failing. What if the very communities we're celebrating for their record breaking business creation are simultaneously experiencing unprecedented job losses? This is the profound paradox Joy Truelove has uncovered about Black women entrepreneurs in America today. Their rising business ownership rates tell only half the story, and it's the half we're comfortable hearing. The data is striking and sobering. In 2024 to 2025, nearly half, 49%, of all new businesses were started by women, with Black women leading this entrepreneurial surge. This statistic alone might suggest a triumphant narrative of barriers finally falling, of long overdue recognition for women's business acumen. But here's where the story fractures, where triumph meets tragedy. During this same period, Black women faced historic job losses. Over 106,000 jobs vanished in April 2025 alone, even as overall U.S. employment grew. Many of these losses directly connected to policy rollbacks on diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives at federal and corporate levels. This creates what Joy calls the resilience paradox, a situation where the very communities we're celebrating for their entrepreneurial spirit are being forced into business ownership because traditional employment doors are slamming shut in their faces. Let me be absolutely clear. This doesn't diminish the extraordinary achievements of these business owners. If anything, it makes their success even more remarkable, more worthy of our attention and support. But it does require us to reconsider what we think we know about entrepreneurship, opportunity, and choice in America today. Consider the federal workforce transformation that Joy meticulously documented. Federal workforce participation among Black women dropped by approximately one third over just 12 months, largely due to anti DEI initiatives under recent political administrations. These weren't entry level positions being eliminated, these were career professionals with decades of public service suddenly finding themselves without the stability they had worked so hard to achieve. What happened next reveals the extraordinary resilience Joy has documented throughout her work. Many of these former public sector employees leveraged their transferable skills into consulting practices or mission driven startups. They focused on government contracting or civic tech solutions tailored toward underserved populations. essentially creating for themselves the opportunities that institutions had withdrawn. As one former federal employee told Joy, I didn't choose entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship chose me when my 20-year career disappeared overnight. But what started as survival has become something more powerful than any job title I ever held. These pivots allowed talented professionals to continue making an impact while building generational wealth outside restrictive legacy systems. Their resilience demonstrates both the vulnerability inherent even at high achievement levels and the power possible through collective reinvention. But resilience alone isn't enough. And this is where we need to confront the persistent barriers that continue to shape these entrepreneurial journeys. While female founded companies are surging numerically, including those led by Black founders, they still receive a minuscule portion of venture capital funding. Just 2.3% of all VC dollars went to women led companies in 2024 to 25, according to Joy's research. This funding gap persists despite overwhelming evidence that diverse teams consistently outperform homogeneous ones. In response, Joy documented how female founders have increasingly turned toward alternative financing models such as crowdfunding platforms or cooperative lending within their communities. These strategies have enabled some founders not only to launch but scale sustainable enterprises, even without traditional VC backing. One founder Joy interviewed explained, when traditional doors wouldn't open, we built our own house. Our community based funding model has actually created stronger businesses because we're directly accountable to the people we serve. This historical exclusion from mainstream financial systems forced creative solutions. Collective action became critical when institutional doors remained closed. The result? A record number of successful launches occurred outside conventional funding pipelines, demonstrating viability beyond VC gatekeepers. The push for equitable access continues shaping conversations around investment reform industry wide. But we shouldn't have to wait for systems to change when communities are already creating their own solutions. What's particularly striking about Joy's research is how it reveals the way necessity and opportunity intertwine. The pandemic era disruptions, followed by anti DEI policies at federal levels, disproportionately impacted minority workers' job security. Yet from this instability emerged the wave of innovation that is reshaping entire industries. Many affected professionals chose entrepreneurship as an alternative path, leveraging their skills into small businesses tailored toward unmet community needs. This shift led not only to economic empowerment on an individual level, but also fostered greater representation within key service industries like healthcare and retail. Women now drive nearly half of all new business creation, the highest rate ever recorded since tracking began. This wave has redefined what leadership looks like across multiple sectors, while spotlighting gaps still needing systemic change. But here's where we need to be careful with our narratives. When we celebrate this entrepreneurial boom without acknowledging the forces that made it necessary, we risk normalizing systemic exclusion. We cannot allow the success stories to mask the underlying inequities that persist. As Joy powerfully stated in our conversation, we should absolutely celebrate these entrepreneurs, but we should simultaneously ask why so many talented Black women are finding themselves pushed out of traditional employment in the first place. Both realities exist simultaneously, and both demand our attention. This brings me to what I believe is the most important insight from Joy's work. The entrepreneurial growth among Black women is not only reshaping industries, but also challenging outdated assumptions about who leads innovation and why. Their success isn't happening because systems are working, it's happening despite systems failing. The resilience demonstrated by these entrepreneurs shouldn't be necessary in a truly equitable society. Yet here we are witnessing an extraordinary response to extraordinary challenges. So, what does this mean for each of us in this room today? First, it means we need to be more honest about the complex forces driving entrepreneurship. Not every business starts from the same place of privilege and choice. Some begin from necessity, from survival instincts when systems fail. This doesn't make these businesses any less valuable or their founders any less visionary, but it does require us to think differently about the support they need. Second, it means we need to recognize that community support networks, targeted funding opportunities, and advocacy for inclusive policies remain essential, not just for individual success stories, but for shifting the broader landscape so future generations can thrive without having to choose between survival and self determination. And finally, it means we need to challenge ourselves to think differently about resilience itself. We often celebrate resilience as an individual virtue, the capacity to bounce back from adversity. But what Joy's research reveals is that true resilience is collective. It emerges from communities supporting each other when institutions fail them. The entrepreneurs Joy has documented aren't just building businesses, they're building alternative systems, new pathways to opportunity that don't depend on the same gatekeepers who excluded them. This is the profound lesson Joy Truelove's work offers us. Sometimes the most powerful innovation happens not when all doors are open, but when people find themselves locked out and decide to build something new altogether. I want to leave you today with a challenge that extends beyond mere reflection. When you walk out of this room, I want you to examine the systems you're part of, whether as a leader, an investor, a consumer, or a community member. Ask yourself, am I supporting structures that force resilience rather than creating true opportunity? Am I celebrating entrepreneurial success without confronting the inequities that make it necessary? The story of Black women entrepreneurs isn't just about business creation, it's about reimagining what's possible when traditional paths disappear. It's about the extraordinary creativity that emerges when survival and ambition intertwine. And it's about the communities that form when people recognize that their individual success is bound up in collective transformation. The question isn't whether these entrepreneurs will continue to rise, they've proven their determination beyond any doubt. The question is whether we will finally build systems where entrepreneurship can truly be a choice rather than a necessity for everyone. The future of innovation depends on our answer. Thank you